Welcome, everyone, to this edition of the Intent Roundtable Sessions. My name is Ana Maria Montero, and I'm joined, of course, by our host, Andre Hoffmann, who is also co-founder of the Intent platform, together with his wife, Rosalie, just about a year ago, no?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Ana Maria. That's absolutely right.
It's a pleasure, always. Now, before we get into the theme of today's session on impact measurement tools, for those people hearing about Intent for the first time, Andre, how about you give us just a bit of the elevator pitch, as we say, the motivation behind this platform?
Well, to keep it very short, Intent are just a series of events where we try to connect people from different parts of life to foster a development that is sustainable and long-term.
Okay. And of course, as you know, intentions only go so far, right? So we need to be able to put those into action and to, in fact, measure them, which leads us to today's topic of discussion, which is impact measurement tools. We're going to be looking a lot at that. Tell me, just to kick it off, these are essential now. Why are they essential nowadays? And why? What is your particular interest?
So maybe we need to put a little bit of context into all this. The Industrial Revolution is 300 years old, 1800 to 200 and 220 years, let's say. And this Industrial Revolution has allowed an enormous amount of value creation, of wealth creation, by exploiting natural resources and by using social systems to develop the whole value creation system. We have brought a lot, we collectively, humanity, have brought a lot of wealth to the world. But that particular wealth has been created out of a lot of negative effects. We can write a long list of impacts, the most important one being the climate change that we are now looking at, as well as the loss of diversity. And so we need to do something about that. And one of the reasons why we're not doing something about that in a coherent manner is because we focus just on short-term profit maximization. And so we're asking a financial question rather than a holistic question. And that's really why I think that impact measurement is so important. We need to be able to actually understand how businesses, how the whole value creation mechanism is costly to the environment.
And where are we with that?
Well, I think we really are at a moment where there is a change in focus in many distinctions. I'll give you a concrete example. Last month, we celebrated the 50th anniversary of an essay written by a famous American economist called Milton Friedman, who wrote "The business of business is business." So companies have to make money, and that money gets paid back to society. Society then deals with the consequences of the damage is done to the system by this value creation mechanism. Today, we realize that that is not appropriate. We need to measure impact in a different manner and not just on financial terms. But you understand the incredible mind shift this represents. Yeah. Our whole society is based around values in financial terms. How do we measure the impact on natural capital, on social capital, on human capital, before we go into the constructed capitals, which is this artificial sort of system we have put into place? We need to find a way of managing this better, and for that we need to measure.
How optimistic are you that we can get there?
Well, there's definitely a change of attitude towards the big corporation in our coordination with governments. You are aware of the initiative of the United Nations of putting together the Sustainability Development Goals, which is a sort of roadmap to get this thinking of holistic approach to business in the public realm, to make it forward. So there is now some sort of yardstick to measure how you perform in terms of holistic sense, and not only in terms of financial sense. We were discussing just before the Paris Agreement. 5 years ago, we signed the Paris Agreement. In fact, 5 years ago, this Saturday, when people signed an agreement saying we are going to reduce carbon emission over the next years in order to maintain a change in climate of 2 degrees, a lot of people did not believe in it. You know, it sounded a little bit like science fiction. And today, 5 years later, the regulatory side has worked. We don't have the results yet, but at least people take it seriously. And I suspect the 5 years reappraisal of the goal, which should be happening within the next 6 months, will show us some true commitment to go there. So that's exciting. So, and corporations see that as well, of course.
Yeah, that is exciting. But then what are the challenges? What is happening that is preventing this from the shift happening faster than it is?
So our purpose at Intent is to try to create practical solutions. And so what we need to help now is this notion of getting a system that can be accepted by everybody to taking the right decision in the management process. So we need reporting, of course, like we do in financial terms, but we also need tools to allow us to take the right decision when we are performing our duties as managers. And the combination of these two is starting to look so obvious that a number of corporations across the planet are actually saying, well, how do we do that? How can we do it together? One of the places where they can do that is by linking up to the initiative of the World Economic Forum, which its international business community is coming forward with a set of ESG metrics. Now, ESG is about reporting. It's what happens once it's happened. It's creating transparency. I think businesses now are asking for help to go into a decision-making mode. When we make decisions, how are we going to look at that? And within the Intent platform, we have a couple of practical examples, which I hope we'll be able to elaborate on a bit later on.
You mentioned now the World Economic Forum. What role does government, for example, have to play in this? I mean, is interventionism required? And to what scale? So again, let's put it in a bit of context. Yeah, some years ago, governments were regulating, and businesses were trying to constantly go towards the regulation to try to perform the duty of creating value, creating money, which is what we always thought it was. If you ask the wrong question, you get the wrong answer. If we ask the question, how can we contribute to a better world? How can we make the world a better place? Then we need this combination of regulations, which creates a level playing field to everybody, but we also need the entrepreneurial drive of business to be able to create the value that we are after. And the value we're after is not just financial. The value we're after is a positive contribution to social, human, and environmental capital as well. And I think it's important to understand that. A company that is not making positive cash flows is a problem, not a solution. So regulation is important, but collaboration even more. And what about accountability?
Well, accountability is part of this regulation, of course. You need to be able to have transparency, and that's why the reporting part is important. But you also need to be able to together contribute to a more sustainable world. Today, we've got to a point where the overexploitation of natural resources has brought us in a situation where we are not going to resolve the issue just by doing no harm. We need to become net contributors. And when I say we, I don't mean just corporation. Any human endeavor has to start repairing the damage done. And we can do that if we have transparency, if we have accountability, if we manage our business for stakeholders and not just for shareholders, and if we go away from that financial obsession.
And this is possible. I just think of situations, for example, Dieselgate always comes to mind, right? How even when you have these measurement tools in place, how do you make sure that they are implemented and adhered to?
So there's another philosophical dimension here. We don't really want a system that is rules-based. We want a system that is value-based. The managers of Volkswagen, for not naming them, were absolutely convinced they were doing the right thing in their job by trying to undermine the regulation to create more value for the company. Now, if we were to tell them, look, society will not look at you just as salary providers or taxpayers. Society will look at you as a net contributor to society, to the system, I think we might be getting a different reply. These were not bad people. These are not dishonest people. They were just pretending that they knew better than collectively, and that's a mistake. So if we can encourage each individual to perform the right answer to society, then we will be able to get a better world. And that has to do with measurement, hence the subject of today.
Absolutely. So what's the dream? That everybody measure?
The dream has to be that we get sufficiently transparency in what we're trying to do so that we all strive for the next generation. The real key to all this is we are not going to stop the system tomorrow. We need a system that goes on. We need a system that will be able to provide the same amount of prosperity to all of us without destroying too much of the consideration. So the dream is a long-term sustainable development which will continue to provide sufficient prosperity to the 10 billion people we are going to be in the planet very soon without destroying the base on which this prosperity is resting.
Okay, well, I look forward to the examples that you said are coming in future sessions, and we invite you all to join us again for future intent roundtable sessions.
Thank you very much. Thank you.